How's everybody doing? Oh my God, my eyes is like they're gonna come out of my socket. They put too much makeup on me. My God, it's too much. But anyway, we're going to continue with the Pisces woman. Okay, the Pisces woman. We'll discuss Cancer. We'll discuss cardinal water. Now we're going to discuss the Pisces woman, which is mutable water. The water that's seen in the atmosphere, that's seen in the clouds, that's seen in the dew point, that you can feel as humidity. And of course, the water in our own bodies, the water that's in the air, and all its different variations and combination. And of course, then you have the ocean water, the salt water, the fresh water, the pond water. All of the waters that are found on the earth, above and below and underneath the earth, will be attributed to the sign of Pisces. Okay, so what can we say about the Pisces woman? Well, let me just say that the Pisces woman is considered to be in addition to being the last sign of the zodiac, she's also the most mystical. And being the most mystical, she is also extremely psychic. Now, don't get me wrong. All of the water signs are naturally and extremely psychic by nature. And another thing about the water signs, Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio, is that they truly enjoy sex, and because of that, they have a very powerful connection to the inner emotions, not only of themselves, but of those that they come into contact with. So the Pisces woman is also being very, very psychic, very, very mystifying and mystical, like Miss Cancer, but also being quite prophetic. She's also a chameleon, drawing from the opposite sign, Virgo, which is the opposite of Pisces. So Pisces has a chameleon-like quality. Now, you can observe this when you take water and you put it in a bowl versus putting it in a tall glass or putting it in a cup or dropping it in the bathtub. The water takes all kinds of different forms depending on the container that you put it in. So in many essences, the water is being chameleon-like because it shapes according to wherever you put it in. So the psychological nature of Pisces is also the same way. She is a chameleon psychologically, whereas Virgo is a chameleon physically. The Virgo woman, like Miss Gemini, can have different kinds of guises, different disguises, right? Different vestibules. They can put a hat, they can put a scarf or bandana or something and become almost like different people. And really, or put on different kinds of makeups that can make them appear like they're different kinds of people. Virgo can do that. But what Virgo cannot do, which Pisces can do, is that it's not very good when it comes to assessing its own feelings, and doesn't know how to even identify their own feelings. That's Miss Virgo. Whereas Miss Pisces, not only can she identify her own feelings, she can also figure out your own feelings almost as clear as looking through a glass of water, crystal clear water. There's no way of hiding from her in this way. So that's why she is extremely impressionable. Impressionable. Every person she meets, it's like meeting a brand new human being for the first time. Everyone possesses a clean slate with her. You're not gonna come to her surface and then she's gonna say, "Oh, I don't like him." No, she won't do that. Even if there's cause for you to be disliked by a Pisces woman, she will still give you a chance. Even though she may know personally that it might not work out, that there's something to you, she's still not going to use that against you. She wants to experience you. And then, usually with a lot of pain in the process, she'll figure out that her own intuitions about you are correct. And she doesn't seem to really pay attention to her own wisdom more than she should be. So impressed is she by first appearances, and so impressed in just the nature of another human being that it becomes a little difficult for her to separate herself from the emotional imagination she has of the other person that she's encountering, because she's making all kinds of sense impressions about you. And this happens in milliseconds, in nanoseconds of her meeting you. Because of that, it's almost like with every passing second, she's losing herself and becoming more enmeshed into who you are or what you're about. And this happens with anybody that she comes into contact with. It's like taking a sponge, right? What does a sponge do? You take it and you throw it in the water, but that water could be dirty. So therefore now that sponge, not being able to stop its action of absorbing that dirty water, is going to absorb that dirty water. If you throw it in a mud, or if you throw it in salt water, or any kind of murky water, that beautiful white fluffy sponge is going to become tainted. And it's no longer going to be that white sponge that you saw and was so fond of. Now it's murky and dirty because it absorbed the water from which it was thrown. So Pisces is the same way. You know, if she encounters good people, then they bring the best out of her. But if she encounters degenerate types and very bad types, she can become just like them by association, and because she will absorb everything about them, just like that sponge. Well, she will lose herself and her sense of identity and become now a part of the group that she's involved in or associated with. It's like taking a drop and dropping it in the ocean. You're no longer going to be able to identify that drop because now it's in the ocean, so now it lost all identity. It's now part of the great collective. So the same thing is true of Miss Pisces when she encounters anyone. Anyone. This doesn't apply to objects, of course. Just living situations, living beings particularly. You have to understand that Pisces is what? It's the sign of the two fishes going in opposite directions. I just got to see if I'm actually... Oh, okay, I gotta make sure because this is just a little crazy. She represents two fishes swimming in opposite directions. Understand what that means. It means that Miss Pisces has a contradictory nature. And what do we call that? Paradoxical behavior. Where she is for sure going with you, feeling you. And then all of a sudden, she does a bait and switch. Or she does a 180-degree turn. And you don't see it coming. So then you think you're being bamboozled by Miss Pisces. And that very well may be. But it's not something that she seeks out to do from her heart or initially. She's an open slate. Remember, being the 12th sign of the zodiac, she embodies all 11 other signs. You could wake up one morning and encounter a Virgo or a Scorpio, and by the end of the afternoon, she'll be a Pisces again, and then jump back to being a Cancer or a Taurus. She's the ultimate chameleon. And this occurs not so much in the psychology of these signs. It's not that she's mimicking the psychology of these signs. What's happening is that she is being very, she is morphing in her moods. Her moods mimic the other signs of the zodiac. You don't know if she's moody one day or 1 minute of that 1 hour, or then be nice and giggly and bubbly and giddy like a Gemini. It really depends on her moods. Think of it as the ocean. When the ocean comes in during high tide, it brings all kinds of shit to the surface. Well, that's the same thing with Miss Pisces. You don't know what the ocean shores are going to bring to the surface. It might bring a diamond. It might bring an expensive necklace that someone dropped on the way to the beach. It could be an old relic from centuries ago, taken deep down from the ocean floor and brought to the surface. So you never know. With that, we can apply that to the psychology of Miss Pisces. We don't know what's going to come out on the surface on a given day, on a given afternoon, or on a recorded evening. You never really understand what she's thinking. And even when she tries to articulate the heart of the matter, you still are left wondering, what the fuck is her problem then? You still don't understand what her particular problem is. But you do know that there's a malcontent or discontent that only Miss Pisces can resolve. It might mean that she might need to get away from you just for a couple of minutes, and then maybe she'll be okay. Maybe it's your energy throwing her off, and she don't know how to articulate that. Somehow she's not feeling herself. She's an open barometer or an open wire. Have you ever been electrocuted? I hope not. It's happened to me a few times. And you never even realized that it was an open wire. That's how she could be. If she's wounded and harbors pain, it will come out in her behavior. It'll be quixotic, unpredictable, contradictory, almost like a loony bin. She's very sensitive. So if she's with a guy that's a really bad guy, he could destroy her. She's like a sparrow. You have to be careful how you treat Miss Pisces. I don't know which one. I'm conflicted. If Miss Cancer is the one that you really gotta walk on eggshells with, or Miss Pisces. Well, I will go with Miss Cancer. You gotta walk on eggshells because she won't tell you what she's feeling. If she gets offended, she won't tell you, and it will take that into her grave. That's how extremist these women can be. Now, Miss Pisces can also be somewhat of an extremist, but at least she'll, in a very dramatic fashion, because it's like a soap opera, she will express it to you. And then, you'll know what's going on. And she might even blame you. And you didn't see it coming. And you probably will not understand how it got to that position. She's a total bundle of contradictions. One would ask, well, why bother with this type of girl? I'll tell you why. Because when the tides are going right, and the good fish is coming and the bad fish is leaving, she can be a treasure or a treasure trove of all kinds of goodies. She's completely mystical. Remember, her ruler is Neptune, which is an outer planet, and it's considered to be a malefic in astrology. It's beyond Saturn. It's beyond Jupiter. It's not beyond Pluto. Pluto, of course, is the last one. And we still consider it a planet, by the way. And it is the higher octave of the moon, which means that Pluto in Cancer functions at its dignity. even though there aren't any books in astrology that really has that as its signature, because Pluto was discovered in 1929. It was too early, so there's nothing really written about Pluto in Cancer, not much. It'll have to be astrologers today, like Pluto in Scorpio now. Never been written. Pluto's never been in Scorpio in our lifetime or anyone else's lifetime, and we didn't even know that the planet existed. So it'll take astrologers of our generation to kind of document these things and then add to the personalities of these people ruled by these planets. So Neptune is a very complex planet to understand. Very complex. And it is considered to be a demonic planet because it is outside the grasp of understanding of the ego and of the psyche. Someone who's very ruled by Neptune, like most Pisces and a few Virgos, because it's the opposite of the sign, can find themselves in all kinds of mystifying and mystical experiences. Or they can attract mystical people or creative people to them. Artistic, creative, like actors and actresses and comedians and artists and designers. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, which rules Libra and Taurus, and rules the finer things in life and the arts and music and literature. So you have a lot of Pisceans that are extremely creative, and they might not choose to bring that out into the surface. But that's okay. Pisces is highly creative, but when it comes to stamina and bringing things about, that might be a little bit of a problem or a little bit of an issue. It really has to deal with endurance and perseverance, really. But she has a sparkle, though, in her eye. If you ever want to know how you identify a Pisces woman, she has a sparkle in her eye. This beautiful, it just sparkles, and it's so promising. And when she looks at you, you get the feeling that she knows you, that she's seeing right into the soul, piercing through. And you're like, oh my God. And you just know you're going to have a great time with her, either in the bedroom or even going out and just spending time with her, just watching this woman unfold right before your eyes in all kinds of different ways. It's really something to behold. It's truly something to behold. Not only does she sparkle with mystery and allure and beauty, she also has what I like to call a heightened sensitivity. This woman is highly sensitive. If you touch her, she might get an orgasm. I'm not trying to be funny, but the woman, she's the type of woman that can have easily multiple orgasms. Very easily, because, again, a water sign, they enjoy sex and they have a heightened sense of sensuality, pretty much like the earth signs. They come a close second. The fire signs and the air signs don't have as much sensuality as they do sexuality and spunk, you know what I'm saying? Like the people kind of like you see in pornos. But Miss Pisces has a romantic feel to her loving nature. She's the type of girl, kind of like Miss Cancer, that can fall in love quite easily. The thing is that Miss Cancer will be more cautious, more careful. Whereas Miss Pisces, like the tides of the oceans. Listen, have you ever been caught in a rip tide? If you get caught in a rip tide, there's no way you're going to get out of it if you don't know what to do. Well, when the Pisces woman falls in love, it's like falling into a rip tide. And it just takes you. You can't fight it. You can't fight a rip tide. So it'll take you right into the ocean. Right out into Never Never Land, where everything is possible and beautiful, but deadly and dangerous, because nature is both. And with Pisces, she doesn't know if she's about to enter the promised land or go into the slaughterhouse. Either way, she'll take the risk, and she'll plunge herself into that type of experience. Fascinating women. And I'm going to have to stop here for the next one.